Hey everybody, this is Christopher Campbell from GM Cellar, and I am pleased to announce the launch of The Broken World, our first real play Dungeons & Dragons campaign in which we, the players, are dropped into a brand new, mysterious world, having lost all of our memories, having no idea what our characters are even about. We are going to be learning it as we learn about this world through intrigue, its people and cultures, its cities, as well as all of the organizations that may have had a hand of why we are here in the first place. We're going to be releasing these episodes every other week along with a bunch of other content this year. Please like and subscribe and share and keep up to date on all of the stuff that we are going to be releasing for The Broken World, as well as other content that we will be releasing in between episodes. Come with our amnesiac characters as we try to unravel the mysteries of this world and also try to unravel the mysteries of our own past and see just who we wind up being in the end.
Welcome to the first session of The Broken World, a long-form D&D campaign brought to you by GM Cellar. In this, our first session, our players are going to discover exactly where they are and maybe who they are. So as we start, there's darkness. You are lying prone on your back, and there fills your ears the sound of grinding stone. A waft of cold air washes over you. And in this moment, a few things register. Firstly, there is a loud rumble. Secondly, you feel for a few moments like you're shaking, but you're not on a ship. You do not hear the ocean. You do not smell the salt sea air. You are definitely surrounded by cold stone. And when you open your eyes, as you blink them open, they're heavy and gritty with sleep. Your body feels as though you've awoken from one of those really long naps where you feel like you've potentially been astral projecting and it takes you a few minutes to remember what a physical form feels like. You will see, again, merely darkness, but with a very sliver of low blue light. If you reach out your hands to touch the space around you, you realize you are mostly encased in stone. But there appears to be some give above you. What do you do?
Well, as a mummy, my character has been entombed before, so getting the feeling like I might be in some sort of sarcophagus, I brace, put my hands, and push.
As you push fairly easily, more easily than you would anticipate, potentially, for what feels like heavy stone, there is a give to it, where the lid shifts off. And it kind of shifts open, it swings as you push. For a moment, it doesn't slide like you would think a regular tomb, but it does, it kind of pops open.
Well, if the opening is now large enough for me to crawl out of, the entire top of it is gone, then I sit up and I look around the room. I have dark vision to 60 feet low light.
So what you will take in this moment is a large stone chamber it's very low light in this moment. And you can see the only real source of light is coming from these clusters of glowing blue crystals. They pulse a little bit and they glow. There's something familiar about this glow, this aura that they're giving off. I don't know that you can quite place it, but you don't feel a sense of danger from them. But these crystals appear to be clustered around your sarcophagus, for lack of a better word, and also on the just beyond, there's 4 more in this chamber. They appear to be clustered around 3 out of the 4, only reflecting a small bit of glow onto the shadowy form of the 4th.
4 more of these sarcophagi things, right? The stone that I was just in?
Correct.
Can I do an Arcana check to take a look at the stones and see if I recognize them as any sort of magical material or something of that nature? Or are they completely foreign to me? Okay.
While that's happening, everything will be all right. Sort of wakes up and sort of takes stock of his situation. Just sort of almost like like, I'm breathing. I appear to have all of my digits and limbs. Not necessarily moving yet, just sort of takes a beat and sort of assesses. He can maybe hear the sound of Kazzra sort of fussing around initially, but sort of takes a beat and takes stock before taking action.
What do you expect to find as you inspect yourself? Like what?
I think it's a question of like, are you
human?
Yes.
Are you an elf?
I think that there's an awareness that like, is everything as it should be? And in other words, do I have the right sort of like, am I hearing the right things? Am I seeing the right things? Like, does it feel right? Even if he doesn't necessarily have an awareness of what right is there like, is this essentially a sense of, is this correct? Or is this not as it should be?
Right. Is the disorientation coming from inside or from external forces?
Right. Yeah, well said.
Yes.
Do I have the right number of limbs relative to my expectation?
Well, your expectations is that you will find your human body to specify that everything will be all right as a human. So as you run your hands over your face, the contours are familiar. You're not encountering anything you wouldn't expect.
Mm-hmm. Great.
However, you do note as you inspect the rest of your form that clothes that you might normally expect, your sort of, casual padded jerkin when you're not wearing your armor or anything of that matter is not present. You are dressed in simple linen clothing. It is a simple tunic, it feels like, under your fingers, and simple trousers.
And I don't have any wounds. I don't have any new and exciting scarring that I can feel.
Not that you can feel. You do feel weaker than you would anticipate.
Good to know. Good. And with that, I'll throw it to my 2 colleagues who have not yet.
Pertinax has been laying there, I think doing a bit of the assessment, but before actually lifting the lid off. When he does, he pushes it back and pulls himself out as quickly as possible. Because he has wings, they feel a little cramped. And so he's sitting up. First thing he's doing is stretching those out. That is before trying to figure out what's going on at all. And he's probably actually a little noisy. Probably like, yeah, it feels good. Kind of. And then looks around. Also has dark vision, so is able to see that there are a couple other beings of some sort in here. And quiets down. And then just sort of sits still for a moment. Kind of sitting back to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, as you do so, as you stretch out those wings and the cracking of those delicate bones within those bat-like wings, One, feels amazing. It's like when you ripple and you crack all your knuckles all at once, it's just like a xylophone. And it also shakes off a bit of stone dust as you do so. And you are definitely aware of this particular scent of old stone, old dry stone. As you look around, you take in the same information as your colleague. You will also note that on your face, your mask is still in place. Could you describe that for us?
Yes. Pertinax generally wears sort of a half mask right here that is silver and sort of skull-shaped. If you look at it closely, you can tell it's probably covering something up you probably don't really want to see, but its eyes and everything look fine.
So as you stretch your wings, you touch your horns, everything seems to be in place. You look at your hands and they're the color you expect to see, which is
purple. They've also got some, if you look at his arms, hands, there's some, it probably looks like tattoos almost at first, but you look a little bit closer and it's clearly some sort of inky black tendrils from probably a magical accident of some kind.
As you look across, you see another figure sitting up and taking stock of their surroundings, and this figure seems to be humanoid, also has a mask. This mask, however, covers their full face and looks to be a very sort of aged bronze. And we have one left who has awoken.
Yes. So as people are taking stock of their surroundings and see this last sarcophagus, Jaxiron doesn't really, like, as soon as he sort of like comes to his senses and realizes that this thing gives, he doesn't just push it. He reels back and like tries to put a fist through it.
Spot the party's barbarian. Yeah, so it pops open. Just
okay. And he like immediately just sort of like rolls out and stands upright, like not necessarily in ready to fight, but like clearly alert and like, ready in case there is danger at hand. Has his claws, extended, but not necessarily like they're not sharpened. He doesn't really use them often. He does, like, instinctively, you see him reach behind him, and then and as he does so, he stops before he gets there as he realizes his weapon is not there. Looks around for it, can't seem to find it. In the dim blue light, it's hard to make out the coloration of his scales. He does also have wings that are, he stretches them a little bit, but they tend to just sort of fold around him anyway, so they're not as cramped from being in the boxes as others might be. His eyes, though, do like glint off of the blue light, being a stark sort of turquoise color. And so as he looks around and sees, one other strange winged creature, two humans or humanoid sorts.
I believe he only sees one at this moment. I do not believe the other has.
Okay.
You see two closed
yes.
sarcophagi, one surrounded by clusters of crystals and one that is not.
Yeah, I think everything will be all right. Has sort of slowly, sort of, at this point, has done his thing, especially hearing the loud thunk from Jaxiron punching his open. So, but go ahead.
Yeah. Just turns and looks, like narrows his eyes a little, and in a sort of a low growl is like, "Where am I? Who are you?"
Kazzra does not lift his head, but just still looking at the crystals and hopping out of the sarcophagus. Does not turn their head to address, but goes, "I am Kazzra, and I have no idea where we are."
Great.
When I turn and look at you, my eyes are just this bright, glowing turquoise color through this bronze mask, body head to toe, completely covered, standing up to my full height. I'm about 6'2", and there's this sort of smell of spices kind of coming off of me that are slightly filling the room. Probably really stark contrast, the smell of old stone. By the way, an 18 on the Arcana check, if I know anything about the crystals. And then I just kind of, looking at you and giving just a very subtle nod, looking to the other two unopened sarcophagi and turn my head to the side quizzically about them.
One is slowly opening and you see another humanoid figure. I mean, you're all sort of humanoid figures.
Yeah.
But so far, Kazzra, you take in that there is very clearly someone you recognize as a dragonborn and another you recognize as a tiefling. The other figure that is sitting up appears to be human. As the other sarcophagus remains dark. As you look around with this Arcana check, you will see from these glowing crystals that have clustered around the 4 sarcophagi, there are also clusters here and there on walls, but mostly the tomb-like things that you're in seem to be clustered around something in the center, and that has a stronger glow. And as you look, you see more clusters of these crystals, and you follow a thin channel that seems to lead from each sarcophagus to the center, and that channel's glowing blue. It's starting to fade. Yours particularly is starting to fade. The others still glow. But as you hop out, you notice that glow tends to fade. It leads to an arcane circle. As you approach, you can see, kind of as you peer over the clusters of these glowing crystals, this arcane circle has been damaged. And for a moment, I'm going to need everybody to make me a dexterity save. As you feel the cavern rumble and shake.
14.
18.
9.
He's sort of taking a second to kind of get settled. 19.
Great. So you make everybody makes their dexterity save. Those still sitting in the sarcophagus can just kind of grab onto the end to just be like, what the heck? And Kazzra, you can kind of reach out and steady yourself. You're not far from yours. But you can see...
I do not grab a crystal. I want to be very clear.
I had assumed. Wizard. So it's high intelligence, low wisdom. But you do note that from the cavern around you, as you look up, you do see there were some stalactite-type growths. A large one has broken off, and a couple others have too. There is some crumbling around you. You get the sense that this is maybe not a place you want to linger over long. But you can see that falling rocks from the ceiling, rocks fall, has damaged the runic circle. It has broken whatever it was set to do. And seeing as this runic circle links to your sarcophagi, you have a feeling this may be related to why you have awoken. As you examine the runes around, you can see that the runic circle has something to do with energy transference. Moving energy it's almost like an inverse summoning circle. It is taking something from this chamber and transferring it elsewhere. Looking at it, it does not seem to be transferred to a place specifically on the material plane. But it seems to be, it's a very complex, very sophisticated spell work that seems to be transmuting energy and transferring energy to something that is part demi-plane, part material plane, part something. You're not quite sure what.
Without thinking about it, I reach around looking for my notebook that I normally keep on me. And then finally taking stock of what I do and do not have on my person other than my mask and bandages. What do I have?
You have nothing.
Nothing.
You have your mask, bandages, and a linen tunic
Okay.
and trousers.
In that case, I would like to take a perception test to look about the room for possessions. Anything other than just sarcophagi, crystals, line, broken circle. What else is in our surrounding?
What is your...
My passive is 11.
Okay, yeah, you're going to have to make an investigation check.
Sure. Investigation or... Investigation's 13, Pat, and it's 11 for perception. So if I'm...
Yes. Go ahead and roll. Give me investigation because you are looking for specifics.
Okay. Not much better. 15.
What you do see in this chamber essentially is what looks like the remnants of a very old and neglected sort of temple. You will see what you, the players, recognize as the Grecian style of the triangle.
Pediment.
Sure.
Art school.
What was the word again?
Pediment.
Great. You will see the pediment. Yes. Only the pediment shall pass. The
Don't be a pediment.
in a way, it does actually kind of look like Petra, kind of carved into the wall, but much simpler and scaled back. And there's no decorative statues. There's nothing carved into the walls. It's just
This be a temple to no one.
right. It is
Got it.
simple, dark stone.
Religion
While-
check. Do I identify this temple at all?
No.
Okay.
While he's investigating, you said there were 5 sarcophagi total?
Yes.
Great. Looking over at Jaxiron and Pertinax, do we want to see if there's someone else in here? Yes.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
I would happily, like,
You announce
as you
that question?
gesture to it.
Yeah.
I would go over and be like, I mean, I could probably lift it off myself, but I'm happy to. I do have some manner of some sense of manners, so I'm like, if someone is coming to help, I will stand nearby and be basically ready to help. So
I do stop my investigation and witness this, but from
Yes.
a bit away.
I'm going to stop you there for a moment. Turning your attention to the sarcophagi, Kazzra, with that previous Arcana roll, I do want to note that you do see carved into the lids and around the base of the lip are more very complex and tricky spell work that are runes for preservation, for tranquility, for slumber, peace, and particularly tricky bit of chronomancy.
Okay. In
where
that
it's
case,
is flowed within the tombs themselves.
okay. In that case, then I want to prestidigitation very quickly to cause like a little puff of air, just sort of interrupt everybody, and go up, 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 up. And I point and begin to make my way over to that sarcophagus and go, note, okay, runic carvings around it. Give me a moment before you touch this. And I approach and I make an Arcana check to see if there's anything I can figure out. What does this chronomancy do? Do I have any note, or that's not even something in my wheelhouse?
The best you can tell, it's almost like a slow spell, or a stop, but particularly only within a enclosed. Like the runes connect when the lid is closed, and it creates a bubble within this of a sort of stasis. One thing you do note, however, and I'm letting this stand because that was a very good Arcana roll, the runes on this 5th one don't match up. They're just slightly off.
You describe that a little bit more. They're just slightly off, as in like it looks like 2 spells overlapping, and it doesn't make a full circle of spell.
Looks like an amateur imitated what the others look like.
Rather than just saying that again, what you've just said, I relate that information fairly verbatim to the group as I look at this and I walk around it. Do I think that a mage hand from a distance away could open this? Understanding that when I opened mine, that it actually opened fairly easily. Could I tell everyone to step away from this in case this is booby-trapped? Let us not be harmed by whatever lies inside. If we are determined to open this, let me attempt to push it away while we all stand over there. And I point to behind another sarcophagus.
How much of what you've learned are you relaying to the rest of the
Every single word. I'm relaying everything that I have been told to you, pretty much exactly as Judy is told to us.
So, with that in mind, if this is truly if this was meant to be sleep, or if this was like us, we are alive, but their spell, the magic on this one is wrong. I'm not versed in the arcane. I fear we may be I fear we may be disturbing the dead.
I laugh at you and Mummy. I use Mage Hand to push it open.
What? What's your passive perception, Jax?
13.
13. Yeah, honestly, like a 10 would give you, like, yeah, you're pretty sure this guy's undead.
Sure.
Okay, yeah, the lid pops open. Give me insight.
12, so 15 again.
12 here also. Well, 12 altogether.
You rolled a 1.
I rolled a 1 and I have a +0.
Same
Great.
here.
Great. You don't know what the fuck this is, but it's gross.
Okay.
Great. In fact, you think it might be alive?
What is alive?
That's a great question. Whatever it is, it's disgusting and it's going to eat everybody.
Good.
The rest of you, you note around the lip and lid are sort of rotten, decaying teeth, potentially. And there's definitely a smell of rot and decay that emanates when this opens, and you can see sort of there's a pool of digestive juices and the rotted remnants of a tongue. It's a dead mimic.
Pertinax is finally kind of crawling over from his sarcophagus to check this out. He's just sort of peering at it and not getting too close, but...
Ooh, are any parts of a dead mimic useful in casting spells?
Potentially, but the quality of there's nothing of quality that you could harvest from this.
Do I note a stick or iron rod or anything I could use to stir the soup? Poke around inside there?
No.
No? Okay.
No, it's a lot of rock.
It's a lot of rock.
A lot of rock, a lot of crystals. Also, everybody make me another dexterity save as you hear a...
10.
That's my attempt at doing an earthquake sound effect. I am not Matt Mercer.
12.
8.
5.
Everybody that rolled below 10 is going to get knocked down.
Okay.
We're not in combat time, so you can get back up. It's just, you're going to get knocked over.
It's a particularly long fall for Jaxiron standing over 7 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pertinax is like kind of already crouched down on the floor, so just kind of...
Great. Cursory, as you continue to sort of look around the chamber, you do see that the within that sort of wall that has the kind of carvings on it that are temple-like, there does appear to be potentially a door in a narrow passageway.
That's it. Exits are?
I say out loud, just as we're all looking around and hearing the earthquake, I stare at the mimic and not even noticing the door. I sort of walk around it, pondering, and I kind of mutter to myself, if that is siphoning and taking energy from us, why was there a mimic? And just the idea of sapient sentience being locked in a device that sucks energy. This sarcophagus that is dead was the mimic, like the entire thing, right? It wasn't a mimic inside the sarcophagus. The sarcophagus was the mimic. So
Correct.
I then deduce that any creature could be connected to this in a battery in some form or something else, and just begin pondering and walking around it. And I get locked in a logic loop, not paying attention to anything else except trying to figure out why a mimic, how a mimic. So
no one ever asks, how is Mimic?
How is Mimic? Yes.
Well, you do know. Well, Mimic is dead, so
Not well.
great.
Yes,
Not
Mimic is dead, but
Not having a Baja blast, having a Baja bad time.
Do not drink the Mimic juice.
Do not drink the Mimic juice. Put it back.
Go ahead.
You will note that there is not a line. There is not a channel that is linking that Mimic sarcophagus to the summoning circle.
Perhaps it was a naturally occurring Mimic. It saw things that appeared to be chests and imitated them. But I don't. We should probably consider leaving, or figuring out how to leave. And with that, he will simply just turn his heel and start looking for whatever door or passageway is connected to this chamber.
I start
Jaxiron
following
returns to
him
his
about.
feet and follows.
I note that humans cannot see in darkness, correct?
Correct, but it is low light within here.
Okay.
From the crystals, correct?
Yes.
Since I can see in darkness, I make note to be close to the humans, so should they perhaps not see something that I do, I can put a hand up and at least stop them from walking into a cliff or a hazard, so I just maintain proximity.
Give me group survival checks, please.
Oh boy.
15.
11.
20, not natural. Eldritch
10.
20.
Unnatural. Dirty 20.
What was yours, Campbell?
Mine was a 10.
Okay. 10's the number you had to get to be able to find the passage out. As you navigate through this kind of door, you can see what actually appears to be a bricked up passage. But the ongoing earthquakes have weakened the bricks and stone enough that you can, like, it's already sort of collapsing, so you can easily kind of just push through. So you can continue to make your way through a very winding passageway. The stone here, it shifts over time as you make your way through. I'm assuming everybody is going? Okay. As you make your way through, it shifts from what has been intentionally carved to a more natural cave system, which means there are times when it's going to be very narrow. It is very dark. You can hear trickling water from somewhere. There's at times you appear to be going up, at times you appear to be going down, but it doesn't really necessarily break off. There are a couple intersections that you will arrive at. So you arrive at the first one. Again, I'm going to need everybody to make me a dexterity saving throw. There is another rumble and another shake. This one seems worse.
Warm rolls continue. 12 for me.
16.
13.
9.
Great. Everybody but Pertinax is going to take 1 point of bludgeoning damage
Oh.
as you're trying to avoid falling rocks, essentially. Beware of falling rock. You're in a cave during an earthquake. It's not fun. So you definitely take some damage as you're trying to get in here, or you're kind of thrown against a boulder. Or again, give me investigation or survival.
Is this group check or
17 for investigation.
6 survival.
5 survival?
19. I'll say this is investigation. They're the same number for me.
Great. So those with high investigation, those with low, you're just kind of dazed. And honestly, I think it probably dawns on you what a bad position that you're in right now. You are who knows how far underground. And there's definitely seismic activity of some variety that is happening. It does not feel great. Those who rolled a little bit higher, you can hear, you maybe in your past, you kind of reach for it and your memories are a little hazy. Again, you don't know where you are why you're there. And if you kind of try to reach for the last moments that you can remember, everything's sort of very hazy. You're still very much under that kind of unsure what reality even is right now sort of feeling of having woken up from who knows how long asleep or unconscious. But maybe you've been underground before, potentially, but there's something familiar about this sound of trickling water, of where the air is a little bit fresher, but water has to come from somewhere. And if you follow to the sound of water, you may potentially find where it is trickling in from and where it leads out. If it's moving, it is going in a direction. So you will kind of follow that sound to where it's louder. And as you navigate up, you occasionally you will walk through a few larger chambers that have more crystal growths, that have not just the regular stalactites that you would sort of expect to see of this sort of limestone type rock, but you will also see more growths of these glowing faceted crystals. And the crystalline structure is very similar to quartz. You have these points and clusters that arise. There does not seem to be any rhyme or reason to where they appear. It's almost like they're splattered throughout the caverns. Like someone has kind of like taken a paintbrush and gone flip, and then where the paint landed, the crystals grew. You make your way through about 2 of these larger chambers, and as you go into the passageways that are really that are darker, so you will have to have the dark vision folks guiding you through, which is good that Kazzra rolled that high. They're much narrower, and they are more, it's limestone. There's very few of the crystal growths within these sort of cavern, like these small passageways as you climb and you make your way through and you pull each other up. Yes.
A note, as we're going through these passageways, what we were going through in the temple was clearly constructed. Are these passageways more natural?
They are natural.
Okay, so the crystal is still growing in this natural environment, not just in the created. So it is sort of expanding like a fungus or growing or moving out. Okay. There's a note that I would like to interact with the crystal, but I want to get a little farther along. So if we reach a point where you suddenly tell me the crystals stop, I would like to jump back in.
As we're going, can I find like a chunk of, broken off shale or some other piece of rock that I can breathe fire on to char and then use that to mark any sort of if the passage diverges, that I can mark the direction we take?
Yes. Yeah, I will say with the survival checks that Pertinax had, they'll find a piece of stone and kind of start to and kind of sketch on the wall, and then that kind of gives you the idea, and you both start doing that.
I jump like 2 feet back when fire emerges from the mouth of the Dragonborn. Not surprising that a Dragonborn would do that, but still, it startles me.
Yeah, maybe watch that in the give us a warning in the narrow passages here.
You are pleasantly warm for a moment. It is pretty chilly in these caves. Probably somewhere around 40 degrees Fahrenheit.
Amidst that, while we're taking a beat here, amidst all the shale and potentially crystals, are there any pieces that are about a long, maybe? And
Sure.
great, I grab one of those. Whether it's shale or crystal, I am indifferent.
Sure about that?
Yeah.
I have no reason to believe that this is dangerous.
Yeah. No. I'll say definitely there's some shale around the limestone, so you can definitely get a bit of a caveman weapon here going.
Caveman dagger here, yeah.
Caveman dagger. Yep. Caveman shiv.
Yeah. Hey, you know.
Add that to your band list.
There you go.
As you move through making your preparations, making your markings, you will kind of the passageway, after getting very narrow to the point where you kind of have to slide your way through in a kind of commando crawl, it opens up and you can see before you. You have to blink for a few minutes as your eyes adjust, because this is a much brighter cavern. So I want everyone to give me perception.
10.
16.
Also 10.
2.
Kazzra, it's going to take your eyes a minute to adjust here. So, Pertinax. The rest of you are in a larger natural cavern with a lot more crystals. So it's just, you almost feel like you're in the inside of a geode. There's so many of them. Pertinax, you will notice the sound of water is much louder here. There is a sense of, there's a humidity in the air. The cavern itself is a little warmer. And some of that is you can feel that there's a very small amount of heat that is coming off of these crystals. Not a lot, but some. And you realize that there's somewhere you can hear there's water trickling down. It doesn't sound like a waterfall, but it does sound like water trickling down a cave wall. And you will note that across from where you enter the cavern, there is a very large sort of underground lake, largely still water. But from what you can see from here, it seems to have its own sort of soft blue glow.
Oh, very interesting. I'll go over and I'm actually kind of examining the water. I'm probably going to taste it, see if it's good to drink. It's probably pretty thirsty. I think it's pretty dry in here.
I love this. So yeah, the water is, for lack of a better word, crystal clear. It is completely clear. You will also notice that around the banks, there's some plant life. There appear to be fish in the water. There's even a few buzzing insects. All of this life is colorless, as cave-dwelling life tends to be, but there's a bioluminescence that is sort of blending into the crystals as well. It's kind of glowing with this blue bioluminescence. And yeah, you taste the water.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Again, I love this. You feel vibrant and refreshed. And as you bring this water to your lips, you have a moment where the world sort of fuzzes around you. And in game mechanics terms, for this homebrew game, you've triggered a memory.
All right.
So we're going to together narrate a scene for the players watching, or for the folks watching at home, and for the rest of the players. We're going to narrate a scene that is going to build your backstory a little bit.
All right.
So as the world fades, you stand near another body of still water. You are surrounded by elders, community. The time of day you all have gathered is one that is most important to your people. What time of day is that? Describe it for us. Is this body of water somewhere that is important to your people?
Yeah, it's dusk where the sun is setting. We can see it just past the tree line on the other side of the body of water. And everybody's gathered there, as we often do in the evenings. Maybe not everybody goes every evening, but there's always someone there for the evening rituals.
Faces blur when you try and focus on any one individual. But the emotions sparked by the sense of being the focus of a sacred and solemn ritual remain. How old are you in this memory? What are you feeling in this moment as you are on the cusp of starting a path that will forever change your life?
I would say this is maybe not quite all the way to adult, but very close to being an adult. There's, I think, a feeling of looking around at everyone around me and thinking about what will my place be here, and how am I going to learn that, and some anticipation about knowing that I'm going to have to set out and find that out away from here soon.
Your eyes are closed as you're blindfolded. Hands grasp your shoulders and guide you under the water. They hold you there until your lungs give you no choice but to breathe. Do you fight it, or do you trust in the ritual?
No, I trust in the ritual, definitely.
You recall in this memory the sense of powerful connection flooding your body. As the water enters your lungs, you breathe it as easily as air, and you feel yourself become a connected node on a vast and unknowable web. You are a point in the great cosmos. You are a dust mote in a sunbeam. Your will now connects to the very currents of creation, and there is a sense that ahead of you lies a lifetime of learning and struggle, and a path that is so different from any of your peers. As you are raised from the water, a voice calls, "You serve." The old ritual calls for you to respond with, "I serve." As you spit out the water and air flows in surprisingly easily, how do you respond?
I serve.
The memory sort of fades around you, and as you take a sip of this water, I think a part of you wants to whisper out loud, "I serve," in this memory.
I think I perhaps do. I think I'm very... this is hitting me so hard right here. I think if anybody is close by, they would hear this.
The sense of what you serve, or what this ritual tied you to, or what you became, what happened is fuzzy, but that moment and the emotions tied to it remain very present with you. Game mechanically speaking, you receive an effect that is going to be similar to receiving 3 archetype points. And for a moment, I'm going to pause here so I can tell our audience about this homebrew rule that we have for this game. So essentially, there's a homebrew mechanic that we have that is going to be called archetype points. When the players roll a natural 20 or roll a natural 1, by the way, Chris, you get an archetype point, or make a really good role-playing move acting in accordance with your nature, you receive an archetype point. These points may be spent as follows. Spending 3 points means you can alter something within your perception of reality. You can learn a language, you can see through illusions, you can increase your perception. 5 points, you can alter something temporarily within the environment of your immediate area, so within 100 feet. 8 points, you can alter something fundamental in the environment in your region. But be warned, after spending these points, you will take the equivalent level of exhaustion. So for increasingly longer time spans, every time they use a point, So for spending 3 points, the first level of points spent, they will take a level of exhaustion. If they spend 3 points again somewhere down the road, they're going to take they'll take a level of exhaustion, but it will be for increasingly longer time spans. But the more points you spend, the more levels of exhaustion you take, and the more often you do it, the longer that exhaustion will last. So that is our homebrew mechanic for this game, and you will understand, as the players will understand, why this mechanic exists as we move through the plot of the game. So back to the game. You are going to receive the effective 3 archetype points, but this is not going to trigger exhaustion. This is just basically going to essentially give you the chance to understand the first unfamiliar language that you come across.
So we see, just after drinking of the water, and we hear, "I serve." They start glowing?
They do not start glowing, but no.
I walk over and sort of gently put my hand on Pertinax's shoulder. Are you okay?
Oh, yes, thank you. I'm fine. I was remembering something.
Oh. Something good?
I think so. Something important.
You've been here before?
No, it just reminded me of something.
I run my hand through the water.
Feels like water. It's nice, it's cool, very clear.
Well, while I'm here, no reason to wait on ceremony. I go and I clip some of the plants and just take a few little specimens, some things to hold. Just tuck them within some of my bandages to hold them temporarily.
2 questions. Is the Earth, do we have the sense that whatever seismic activity is continuing while we're in this geo lake chamber?
Yes.
Okay. Are there obvious exits from this chamber other than the one we came in?
Give me investigation.
1.
Is that another nat 1?
It is. No, that one was a nat 2, and I have a -1 on investigation.
All right.
So
I rolled a nat 1 for perception with a +1. So
we're really good at this. This would be more like scanning around. Nope, don't see an exit. All right.
Do make sure you're noting down your archetype points when you roll a nat 20 or a nat 1.
do I look over and I see, I reach up my hand. Apologies, I did not receive your name. You are? And I mention that, move my hand over to everything, since I have no idea who this person is.
I say, everything will be all right. Is my name.
You are, yes. Kazzra, the persistent. And I look around for everybody to introduce themselves, since I don't believe we did that.
Pertinax.
Jaxiron.
Very well. You seem to be fumbling around looking for something. Exit, I take it?
Yes. With the earthquake, it seemed like a good idea.
I assist, and I look as well.
Investigation.
12. Not very good this time.
Yeah, that's enough. Standing on the bank of the lake, as it you can see where it rounds sort of in the cavern and extends further. But on one end there is nestled sort of where the wall sort of has a natural, it would be hidden from a distance where it might seem like a crack, but you can see, illuminated by the glow of the crystals, there appears to be a carved staircase. There are other items sort of closer to where the stairs are, kind of scattered around the cavern. You would need a sort of further investigation to figure out exactly what they are.
Then I shall do so.
Great.
Another roll? Or
Arcana or investigation.
all right, we'll do Arcana. There we go. 19.
Great. There are various
Arcana.
physical and arcane measuring instruments scattered around the corridor. None of them are intact. Most of them are broken beyond usability in this earthquake, as they are quite delicate.
Most?
All, sorry.
Okay.
Actually, everybody give me another dexterity save as a particularly nasty quake sort of rocks the chamber. Bits of crystal sort of break off.
12.
I get another archetype point.
14.
Honey, put out your dice.
They're digital dice.
21.
Don't tell me you're a dice roller bug believer.
I'm not, but
Yeah,
I do think you're cursed.
Not yet. Actually, I might be. I don't know.
Everybody who got above a 15 is fine. Everybody who got under a 15, you're going to take another point of this point slashing damage from kind of shattered crystal.
Okay, shattered crystal. So there's chunks of it now on the ground, part of it broken up.
There are an interesting thing that you note. The bits that are broken no longer glow.
Yeah, okay. I'm still going to grab a chunk of crystal. Nature roll. Do I identify the structure? Like, is this just regular old quartz, but it just happens to be holding a charge of some kind? Anything I can, or is this a brand new thing? I have no idea what kind of crystal this is.
You have not actually seen this kind of crystal before.
And I definitely take a good chunk of it.
Yes. You can sense that there is still something to this crystal. And on that Arcana check, I'm going to let you have this. These crystals are emanating a powerful magic. The broken bits, they're not quite glowing, but they still do maintain a blue sheen. You can tell that they grow stronger closer together. The magic that they are emanating is unlike any created magic. This is something that feels primal. It feels familiar to you, but it feels primal.
I eat a chunk of crystal. No, I don't.
Hold on.
Right. After pocketing the crystal, I turn and with the enthusiasm of a scholar who just discovered something, share this information with the group while I hold the crystal aloft and sort of shake it in the air.
While we're here, does anybody else drink from the water?
Before I left, I was going to grab a bunch of it and pour it into my eye holes because I don't drink,
Oh, yeah.
but I do have a skull, so just going to be like gulp, gulp. And
Swish it around a little.
I would like to know who I am. If this triggered a memory in Pertinax, it may trigger a memory in me as well, but I was going to wait until we looked around the room. So,
Does Pertinax share that? Like, do they make the connection that drinking the water triggered a memory, and do they share that knowledge?
Yes. I don't think he thinks of it as, oh, the water did this. It was more because the memory was about water.
Okay.
But he said, yeah, I you know, when I took the drink of the water, that was when I had the memory. So up to the rest of you to draw your own conclusions, I suppose.
Yeah, if nothing else, Jaxiron would have, seen Pertinax unharmed by the water, would at least, cup some of it and take a drink just for the sake of refreshment. So
my reason for putting the water into my skull is I currently don't have a container to hold it. But
Don't drink
that is
the
correct.
money
There,
juice.
you do not have any or see anything that really acts as a container to take any water with you.
right, but
Great. So you will all receive that same effect of the archetype points, and actually, unless you choose to share what the memory is, you may not know this about each other. But as players, I'm going to tell you, you're all having a very similar memory. You're standing at the body of still water, somewhere important to your people, at a time of day that is important to your people. You're part of a solemn ritual. You're becoming part of something. You are being inducted. You are being, in player terms, it's almost like being baptized, right? You are being accepted as part of something. So I want to know, and we'll go around in order here, how you react to it, how old you are in this memory, kind of the sense of where you are, how you feel about it, how you react to it. So let's start with Kazzra. I want to know, first of all, are you alive in this memory?
I am alive. I'm alive. I am in middle age, I would say. Well established in my craft as what I know I am a magic caster, but I know nothing else about myself. I know that I am also very curious about magic in the world, and I am standing in front of a large reflecting pool in some kind of temple with many around me dressed in similar robes, but more ornate than mine. There is one in front of me, and I am placing my hand within the pool, in which then when I pull it up, the hand of the water clings to it as though adhering through some sort of magic. It is perhaps water, perhaps not. And then I place my hand on a large tome, my hand pulling away, leaving the water, which then soaks in. And I have been accepted. Not exactly sure how or into what, but around me, there's looks of praise and acceptance from all of these more ancient members. Some of them look like I do now, wrapped, masks, some alive, but all of them older, and I know more experienced than me, and I respect what they are giving me.
So as this happens, you have this sense of connection that I described before, this powerful connection flooding your body. You are now a node on a web. You also hear, in the language of your people, you will hear a voice call out, "You serve." How do you respond?
I'm curious. I look up. Do not know if I remember, and I would go, serve what?
You hear a sense of the whispered word almost within you. Everything.
That is appealing to my curiosity to know the world, and also this strange curiosity to this drive perhaps to document, or dare I say collect. And so I will respond, I serve.
So that your memory fades, we'll move to Jaxiron.
Jaxiron's version of this takes place when he is a fledgling. The tribe lives in call it a village, but it is a loosely connected group of wanderers. They take care of each other, but they come and go. There is never sort of a consistent band of people here. What is consistent though is this ritual is something that the people who come through here are drawn to this place for this reason. There is a cistern under the roots of a massive tree that just seems to go impossibly deep. You even for it being crystal clear water, you cannot see the bottom of it as it descends off into the void. It is a place that people come to meditate, to worship. It's never the same for every person who comes, but it is something that he remembers fondly. It's a place of tranquility for anyone who comes through, and it's a place that is sacred. The people who are here, who stay here, or who come through here, instinctively know to protect it, and or at the very least have taken an unspoken agreement to do so. So Jaxiron's encounter with this ritual, with this place, is he's apprehensive about the process, but his encounter is, or the way that people typically engage in this ritual for him involves effectively just surrendering yourself to the depth of this cistern, of just allowing yourself to fall into it and to go impossibly deep until you don't even, it's not understood how anyone has ever returned from it. At first he believed it was a test of endurance, that anyone who came out was simply, testing their mettle to see how deep they could go. And so Jaxiron, as he came of age, decided to take his dip, and as he went, and just sort of fell into the darkness of it, there comes a point where, that moment when your lungs can no longer hold, there is no air left to give, and the darkness has surrounded him. He can't even see the light above anymore from the top of the cistern. And this takes place, around in the early morning. So this is, sunrise, which makes the lack of light all the more unnerving. But as that darkness sort of crowds in around him and consciousness fades, he goes from, fuzzy and feeling that panic begin to set in of this is how I die, to suddenly feeling his awareness extend out impossibly far, like that of these branches of this massive tree, and that he now feels, the harmony of the life cycle of this tree, and that of the other people around it who have come to witness his rebirth, and he shoots back to the top. In just one, feeling a surge of strength, courage. He's not sure what, but just surges back upward until he returns to the surface and takes that first breath of air again.
As you do, and as you are pulled to the lip of the cistern and over into a standing position by your people, you hear that phrase, "You serve."
He looks up into the tree, and he doesn't say anything. He looks up, just sort of like staring, awestruck, and just nods, trying to catch his breath.
That's accepted. Now, everything will be all right.
For him, I think that he sees himself standing on a high bridge over a sort of over a still river far down below, 30, 40, 50 feet below. And there's rather than having a straight railing, there's something that's clearly been constructed as part of this bridge to allow for this ceremony to take place. A little plinth, a little carve-out area where the railing moves away. You wouldn't necessarily want to use that as the bridge the whole time. And he's surrounded by many of, presumably, his friends and family. And he's wearing what appears to be some sort of stone apparatus, some sort of like, maybe it's like an oversized stone holy symbol of some kind, or something that is sort of attached to his body in some form or fashion, along with a long rope tied to the piece of bridge above him. And he is helped, or helps himself, probably a little bit of both. He steps and is maybe slightly pushed a little as well, and plummets straight down into the river below. Like the huge ripple of the river water as he plunges underneath.
How old
down.
is?
Probably about young man, probably 12 at the most. Maybe as young as 8 or 9, depending. Hard to tell with that age sometimes, given how fast will grow. And as he plummets down, he sees the sun at high noon, and he sees the bridge that he's just been pushed off of, not made of wood or metal, but made of some sort of strange, almost translucent material. That's various levels of translucence, but is just this beautiful sight with the sun shining straight down through it. And as he sort of almost is pulled out of the moment to appreciate this beautiful sight, plunges down into the water, so far down and weighted by this stone that he's been essentially attached to, that he has no choice but to he reaches the bottom of the river, and is sort of eventually begins to breathe the water, and whether it's he tugs on the rope or they just pull him back up, maybe a little of both. He is essentially winched back up to the bridge, to the high point of the bridge where he had begun this journey. And they pull him out, and he's coughing a little bit, clearly a little sort of adjusting to this. And they ask, "Do you serve?" And in this moment, his perception shifts a little bit, like as he's coming out of the memory, such that the timing is he both remembers himself saying, "I serve," and in the present day he says, "Fuck you."
Interesting. All right. So you've all sort of had this memory. I don't know if any of you share your experiences or if you keep them private.
He looks surprised that he said "fuck you" in the present day. Like he's like, wait.
Outside voice.
I take some of the water again. Nothing? Okay.
Ever the scientist.
Jaxiron doesn't necessarily share his memory, but does, he's definitely looking. He has that same look that probably Pertinax had of just being like, there's a moment of reflection occurring here.
By the way, dexterity saving throws, everybody. The chamber shakes.
Take another point of damage. Didn't roll a 1 though.
7. So yep, I think I also take.
I got a 16 that time, so 17. 17. Yay! Stop getting beaten up by rocks. Maybe.
Maybe. While this was interesting, we should probably go.
Just kind of keep looking at my hand. I'm like, and then make my way to the stairwell.
All right. So you will make your way up. It's not a very long stairwell, probably about the equivalent of a flight or two. The stairs are somewhat steep, but not not excitingly so. You get the sense that, especially from the way the ground is trembling, that you're kind of reaching the surface. Or closer to, at any rate. There's a door at the top of the stairs. It is a very heavy-looking door that appears lined in a sort of silvery, dull metal. Kazzra, you don't even need to roll. You will immediately recognize this as lead. This door has been lead-lined.
I put my weak strength on it and just sort of give it a little push, and knowing that it likely doesn't move, I then turn over to the stronger members of the party. I flex and point to a muscle, and then point to the door, and then point to them, and then step down the stairs.
Does your muscle do that? The U thing where it just sort of like deflates?
Right. Like a Popeye cartoon, yeah.
Put some spinach in that eye hole, son.
Oh, that's a good place to store the plant I clipped.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I'm gonna be put some spinach in that eye hole. Son that's gonna stay with me for a while. Okay. Yeah, the door is not locked, so anyone that wants to push on it can open it.
Jaxiron is happy to step up and do so.
Yeah, Jack, do you want to?
Yeah.
It's a very heavy
Tag
door.
team.
It is very thick wood with the side that you're entering from has a sheeting kind of nailed to it of lead. The other side is not lead lined. The other side is just wood. You feel also as you open it, the hinges are very tight, so that if you go through, it will close very sharply. Do you enter?
You mean exit?
It'll close sharply, meaning
It will close very quickly.
Have we
okay.
collected everything before we leave this place that we wanted to collect or do? Because
Make sure you save your game.
having a feeling, yeah.
Right.
No saves coming.
There's about to be a lot of cutscenes.
Yeah, I mean, if all the
Make sure you're in a
if
comfortable
all of
place.
the equipment that was down there is smashed, then I don't feel there's much left else for us to do here. So
A note about the equipment. You said it was arcane equipment. Arcane equipment for doing what?
It's very smashed up. It's hard to tell. It seems to be measuring the emanations of magic
Okay.
from different places within the cavern. It seems to be measuring the level of life within the chamber. Just a lot of measurements, a lot of data collection.
Can I tell from the ruins, and I know this is jumping back a bit if I need to, I'll go back down the stairs, who made it? Like elven make, dwarven make, probably not dwarven make, but anything of that nature, or just it's very generic.
No, it's just very generic.
Okay, then I'm good to go through the door.
Yep.
Great.
Rock and roll.
Thanks for watching, everybody. That concludes The Broken World, Episode 1, wherein our amnesiac characters awaken in a magical tomb and must work together in order to find a way out. Memories already beginning to creep up from the depths of the fog. We end our session in front of a mysterious door. Find out what lies on the other side next time as we continue to discover more about this world and ourselves on The Broken World. New episodes drop every 2 weeks, with other GM Cellar content dropping between episodes. Please like, subscribe, and share to stay up to date on The Broken World and all of the other content we have coming from GM Cellar. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.